Hello and welcome to Bust and Beyond with your host Robin Hayhurst. In this podcast, Robin will introduce guests that have known failure and want to share their story about how they got through it and what happened next. This will make you learn how to see things from a new perspective and avoid making the same mistakes. Please welcome Robin Hayhurst.
I am extremely lucky to be joined today with Jo Wood and Zoe Whitman. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So this is the first time I've had two guests at the same time, so we'll just have to see how it goes.
We're quite used to it. We know when each other's going to talk, so we should be okay.
Well, you have your own podcast, don't you? So, and I believe that's doing very well, and it's sponsored by Xero.
That's right. Yeah. We've been sponsored for a couple of years now, which was completely unexpected and not something that we had, as a goal. But it is doing really well. But we were just talking about the fact that it's really just consistency. It's the fact that we turn up once a week, every week, and put something out there. And we have grown a following, which surprises us every time we look at our numbers.
Oh, well, I can't totally understand that. So we met at an event in Brighton where you were speaking, and you came up on stage, and I thought you were very fresh-faced and very different from everyone else that was there. And I remember seeking you out afterwards and talking about my podcast. And you very kindly said that at some stage, this was a few months ago, you'd come on. So yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do and why Bust and Beyond was of interest to you.
Oh, well, so I'm Zoe, and Jo and I, we were complete strangers really until 2018, 2019, and our paths kept crossing. We're both I'm an accountant by training. Jo's got a background as a bookkeeper. Jo was just starting her practice after having run other practices in the past. I had just written a book as a sort of marketing tool for my business. And I think we both realised that we needed to go and show up at accountancy events. And I suppose we were in the same circles, but we lived at different ends of the country. Jo's in Kent, I was in Bristol. And yeah, our paths kept crossing. We were introduced a few times. I think we were consulting on one of the professional bodies' exam papers. I was on a Zoom call with a baby at home. Jo was in the office. And we just kept sort of meeting and chatting and thinking we got a lot in common. And there was an event in 2019 that we both were asked to speak at. Jo went up and spoke about starting a six-figure practice and her goal to build a business that could earn six figures so that she could replace an income. She'd just been made redundant. And I was talking about how we don't set big enough goals. I'd just written a book around a baby, and I was like, come on, if you really want this, you can do it. And I think there was this crossover around us being really goal focused that really brought us together at that point. And Jo said, we really should stay in touch. And we used to have these chats in the evenings. I can remember walking around the park in Bristol with my little boy in the pram when he was tiny, and waiting for my daughter to come out of nursery, and we might be on the phone for an hour just chatting. Anyway, we decided, there's something here where people like us aren't, I don't know if visible was the word, but we felt like there weren't people like us to connect with, which is perhaps why from different sides of the country we'd realised we needed each other. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could help other people to have people like us to talk to around business building and running ideas past. And Jo had said, I've got this idea for a course to help bookkeepers with the business skills that they don't learn when they do their bookkeeping or accountancy exams. Shall we get together and talk about it? And we ended up booking a weekend in an apartment in Reading, which we decided was halfway between our homes. Like complete strangers turning up at an apartment. It was just the strangest thing. And we worked our socks off that weekend. We had a company set up by the end of the weekend. We had a business plan. We knew what our course was going to look like. And then COVID happened. And I think because we just were so focused, we made it happen. And, we sort of worked around not being able to meet up. And we thought, well, every time we meet up, we're going to take our next step. And it's, again, that consistency that Jo mentioned.
I think consistency I keep banging on about it. It's so important. And lots of business owners kind of miss that. But the other thing you touched on, you wrote a book, you say, about setting big goals. And I, looking back on my career, the only thing that really held me back was me. That belief, that imposter syndrome, that kind of, problem. And I kind of didn't believe in the big goals because I didn't believe they're achievable, but they are. If you set your mind to do anything, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially in our industry, what we find with bookkeepers is that bookkeeping finds them at a time when they need an alternative way of making some money. No one leaves school saying, I'm going to be a bookkeeper when I grow up. And that's something me and Zoe would love to change. But at the moment, that isn't the case. And so people have health issues, have small children, have caring duties, whatever it is, and they think, I need to have some flexibility and something that I can do around whatever. And so then they're going into this career already thinking there's a compromise because I'm doing this because of all of this. I can't actually earn real money. I can replace an hourly rate and hopefully it's more than ASDA's. That's what they're literally going into. So they already start off with a very closed, small mindset. Whereas me and Zoe are very passionate about helping people being unapologetically ambitious. Just because you found this career at a certain time in life where it's a bit tricky and there are some restrictions, it doesn't mean that your income needs to be restricted or your goals need to be restricted.
And don't get us wrong, we have definitely undercharged, undervalued ourselves, underpriced. I started a business, I'd been on maternity leave, and my actual goal was to match my maternity leave income. So I was thinking, well, we survived on that. So if I could just earn this, we'll be all right. And then soon you start realizing, well, hang on a minute, the people I work with rely on me. I really am important to them in their business and everything they want to do going forwards. And then you start to think about it differently. And I think that maybe the way we've brought the community together and we can have these conversations and really acknowledge the great work that we're doing for the businesses we're working with and how we're helping them build, grow, deal with their cash flow, all of the things that really stress them out, then we can help each other to see that. Maybe we don't see it in ourselves. And that's the value, I think, of having other people around you helping you see it.
Yeah, people looking at you will see two very successful ladies who are, doing really, really well. And they think, well, wow, they've got it all right. But you've made mistakes. And you've had challenges and I expect you've fallen over a few times. Tell us a bit about that.
Who wants to go first? I'll start off. Yeah. When Zoe met me, I wasn't in a great place. I had 4 failed bookkeeping practices behind me. And April 19, I thought, well, I'd been working as a finance director in a firm, really helping them out. They just offered me shares in the business. And I'm like, this is it. This is my security. This is it. I'm doing it. And then they made me redundant. So I was like, oh, yet again, even this hasn't worked. And you build up. I've had people say to me, I looked at you and just thought you were really lucky. And I'm like, yeah, it's not felt very lucky along the way. I built businesses that were monster businesses that had loads of clients and loads of staff and no money. And I'm not even joking when I say this. I ended up nearly dying because I had appendicitis that then turned into a twisted bowel that nearly killed me. And I remember them saying to my husband and my mum, we're going to take you into theatre, but you need to prepare yourselves. And that was purely down to the stress of having 3 small children and a business that had run away with me because I did not know how to run a business. I knew how to do amazing bookkeeping. I knew how to sell my services. I actually was quite good at that. I knew the value that I was giving, but I wasn't charging for it. So we can talk now as if we know this stuff because we've lived it and it's nearly killed me. So I'm very passionate about helping other people not to make the same mistakes because we can know how to do the job. We can be the best person at reconciling banks and management accounts and cash flow forecasts. That means nothing when you're trying to run a business. It means nothing. It doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. And actually people that know less than you, because people say to me all the time, you're not a qualified accountant. No, I'm not. Because someone once said to me, if you get this right at your level, if you know how to run a business, you can be running a £300,000 turnover bookkeeping business. And I was like, well, that's what I want. I don't want to keep learning because that feels like more pressure and more stress. And I just finished my exams when I completely collapsed and was so poorly. I didn't want to do that, more of that. So I chose to learn about business instead. And August this year, I sold my practice for multi-6 figures after building it up for 3.5 years because I finally knew how to run a business.
That's amazing, isn't it? Like, I remember when we were preparing for the talk we did at EMC, which you saw, Robin, we were looking at Joe's, we wanted to talk about building a business. We wanted to talk about the numbers behind, like, what should you be paying attention to? And Joe was saying, oh, I think I turned over X amount of money. And I said, well, if we're going to say you've turned over X amount of money, we better check what that was and over the period of time that you were in business. And Joe said, I think it's about 500,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I thought 400, yeah.
Yeah. And so we went and we logged into Xero. We must have been in the hotel still, like finalising that slide. And it was like 700,000. And we're like, the thing is, once you know the sort of repeatable processes that you need to have in the business, you can concentrate on that. But I think that it's a journey in business to work out what works. And I suppose have the courage to dig into the things that haven't worked as well. I think from my own sort of story, I was building a bookkeeping practice when I met Joe around my children. It was really crucial for me to be able to work around children. I come from corporate. I had the kind of job where we'd work weekends at quarter end and you'd work till 10 o'clock at night when the office shut and then go to the office next door that was open 24 hours a day. It was that kind of environment. And I just that wasn't going to work for me working around the children. And I decided that. Don't get me wrong, I tried to keep my business as a side hustle. I actually went back to work after maternity leave for a bit and tried to do it on the side and then realised, actually, I'm onto something. It was my husband. And I think there's something about that external view of someone else saying, what do you want here? You can either concentrate on this or you can concentrate on this. And I needed someone else to say, it's okay to take a risk on yourself, like take a chance on yourself because you can do this. So my husband was the push at that point to become self-employed sort of full time. I closed that business during COVID. I had a small team, I had an office space, team with children. I had children at home. It was really difficult to continue. I do feel on reflection that came around because I looked at my cash flow and thought, my clients can't pay me right now. I've got these people to pay. I can't work. What am I going to do? And it was at the point where directors couldn't furlough themselves. So there were lots of reasons there. But I basically looked at the numbers and I thought, I don't know how long this situation is going to continue. And I don't want to have loans or debt. So my decision right now is to find my clients new bookkeepers, the ones who still are going. And that was what I did. And that, we'll probably talk about it, brought a lot of stress and sadness. It was like grief. Like I closed something. It was everything to me. And I was employed for a little while. And because I really thought, I really saw myself as a failure. And I think that's something Joe and I have done a lot of work on, in terms of what you learn about business actually doesn't go away. It makes you a better business person. That, the things I know from the experience of building that business help me with everything that I do. They've helped me with building Six-Figure Bookkeeper with Joe. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of sadness and grief, I suppose, that goes with that. And it does create a lot of sort of doubt around your abilities. And when you think about taking a chance on yourself again, you maybe believe less that you can do it. But actually, what we've learned is that it just sort of propels you and helps you to do more. So that's, I suppose, my kind of failure. But then, of course, at the same time, we had Six-Figure Bookkeeper running as a side hustle, which suddenly became really needed. During the lockdown, everyone was at home. We ran an online community. People needed other people to talk to. And that grew rapidly because people saw us showing up every week and they were like, I need these people around me. So it was something that turned into success. And really proud of the work that we've done together.
Well, I hear you've got 20,000 members in there now, so that's a really big milestone, isn't it? That's amazing. But, you talk about failure. I mean, I remember when I speak about it on my podcast, but my family company failed. So I was running it at the time. I felt really responsible. I lost my father 2 years ago. And honestly, and I say this with, really thinking about it, the failure of my business was worse because I felt responsible. I felt really bad. But I absolutely now could not do what I do without that failure. There's no way I could bring what I bring to my clients without going through that failure, seeing what made it fail, analysing, thinking about it. So I'm quite honest with my clients. I don't always come to them with ideas and ways of working because that's what I did. Sometimes it's because I didn't do that and I know that it would help. So, it's quite an honest approach in that. My clients get a lot from that.
I think that the thing, when I reflect on that situation, and, I basically looked at the numbers. I've written a book called Know Your Numbers. If I don't know the numbers, who am I to say to anyone else, you need to know your numbers? And that really was something that I was like, I can see the numbers. Debt wasn't an option for me. Maybe in another time I would have thought about it differently. But at that point, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I made that decision based on those sort of values that I had. And when I reflect on what happened at that point, the thing that comes up for me is I hadn't concentrated enough on the pipeline, the sales pipeline and the leads and the marketing. And although I was really good at it, I'd won awards for it. At that time, because I was busy with a baby and writing a book, I hadn't given it the attention. I didn't have the system there for the marketing. And I don't think that's everything, but I do know how important that is. And we have so many conversations with bookkeepers about, first of all, finding clients, so marketing, but also not being able to charge what they think bookkeeping is worth or what they need to be paid, and the money being a problem. And again, that comes to marketing. If you're not telling people how valuable it is what you do, you're not going to be able to charge what you need to charge. So I think it always comes back to sales and marketing. And I think that's become a massive focus for everything that I do and a lot of what I bring to the community.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that really does help people. But I mean, going back to knowing your numbers, one of the things that I bang on about all the time now with clients is KPIs. It's KPIs. But lots of people are measuring these things, but not realizing what they are. And they're not realizing the value. So lots of KPIs that people have, so key performance indicators, they're measuring them anyway, but they're not comparing them, they're not using them in the right way. I had one client go, oh, well, I haven't really got my head around this KPI thing. And then I sat through one of his meetings where the whole team reported all their KPIs, and they just didn't see them as KPIs.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The thing is, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why we're here to really share these insights and what does it actually mean. And it was one of the things that helped me build my business with my clients, my bookkeeping business, was that I was able to talk to them about this, salon owners. I was like, let's think about what is important for you. And going back to that marketing, for them, a lot of them was like Instagram followers. Let's track that once a month. They're like, but you're my bookkeeper. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's a number that we can track and we can see if what you're doing is impacted. Everything impacts that bottom line. And that's what we need to be tracking. And what's great is that when I was talking to salon owners, they're like, oh, that's a number I can track. Whereas if you talk to them about profit and loss, they'd be like, oh, but they could track those kind of things. Email lists and, things like that are all numbers that can be tracked. How many new clients have you had this month? Where are they coming from? No, it is really interesting. And this is the problem with bookkeepers, is because they've learnt the technical things and the ratios and, all of these kind of analysis terms, they want to put those into practice, but they don't mean anything if you don't put some understanding behind it. And actually the simple numbers are actually the really important ones. And they're the ones that no one's tracking. It's really easy to go in once a month and look at Instagram and say, how many followers have I got, and track it. But because it's that easy, it means no one does it. And therefore, there's nothing to, compare and look back on and see where things have been working and where things haven't. And I think that's sometimes the thing. We overcomplicate things in business and we assume everything's got to be hard. It's not got to be hard. It's got to be consistent, regular, boring. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, I often use the example of every morning I get up, I've got a lovely Labrador who's sitting under my feet at the moment, trying to be very quiet, but he's not always. And every morning I go out and walk him. If I feel good, bad, indifferent, if it's raining, snowing, I go out and walk him. That's consistency. So in a business, if you get up and you do your invoicing on the third week of the month, you get up and you do your invoicing. Whether everything, the world's ending around you, you still do your invoicing. That consistency is really important. And I think people struggle with that. And as you say, measuring KPIs, it's not about measuring that this month and going, right, that's what that could mean absolutely nothing. But if you compare it for the last 6 months, then it means something. So cash flow forecasting, so many people don't have one. They're scared of them. They don't understand them. It's a guess. Hands up. It's a guess. Okay. But if you look backwards for 6 months and look at your actual figures, your guess is going to be a lot better moving forward 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my industry, we do a thing called a program. So we do a program for construction, and we don't know if it's going to rain or if subcontractors are going to let us down. We don't. There's loads of things we do. It's a guess, but it's done from experience. It's the same thing with cash flow forecast.
Mm-hmm. It's the same as well with things like sales. So Joe was talking about like how many followers have you got on social media, but also the real thing that's important as a business owner is, well, how many of those have become clients? So there are some really simple things you can track, like how much marketing have I done? How many of those have turned into sales calls? Maybe there are some steps in between, but how many sales calls have I had and how many have come from that marketing route? Because then we can decide, was that actually worthwhile? And if it was worthwhile, how much of it did I do this month? How many posts did I put out or something? Therefore, if I want more calls next month, how many posts in theory should I be putting out next month? And then we can measure things like if I had this many sales calls and then this many became clients, what's my success rate? And why is that different to last month? Okay, it's more successful. What am I doing that's better this time? And how can I do more of that? So I think there is some, you know, if you think about what do I actually want to know here? I want to know whether I'm making sales. I want to know whether I'm making, if I've got leads, I want to know how much work my clients and my staff are doing for me, or, you know, how productive they are, how many tax returns I'm getting out. You can start to study what's driving those numbers, and then you can take the actions that hopefully engineer the result that you want to have when you're building that forecast that you're predicting for the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good advice. The other thing that kind of companies do, and I've had a conversation with a few of my clients around this, is a company will always look so much better from the outside than it does from the inside. And it always looks so much worse from the inside, however well you're doing. And I had a client who said, look, I really want to be the best in this area. And I said, well, who's your competition? You know, let's look at them. Let's just go on Companies House, look at their figures. All of them were nowhere near as big as he thought. They weren't doing as well as he thought from the figures we could see. You know, so this kind of presumption that someone else is better and doing this and doing that, you've got to be aware of your competition. I'm not saying ignore them, but you've got to be inward facing. You've got to try and strive to be the very best yourself and use your figures and everything else to make you do that, rather than get this thing where, well, everyone else is doing so much better than me. And it's a bit like, you know, the two of you, social media and everything. Everyone sees this perfect world, perfect life. You know, social media does that to people. It kind of gives you the kind of the perfect life bit. And actually, the amount of times you've fallen on your face trying to get to where you are, and the amount of times you might still fall on your face trying to get to where you are. And I think the only difference between you and someone else is you've got back up.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think I'm an open book, and I think when we first met, me and Zoe are quite yin and yang with that. And I think Zoe's sometimes cringed at, why is she sharing that? Why is she telling everyone that? But I see it as like instant therapy, and I've got practiced now at sharing my failures quickly, because as soon as I start sharing it people are really nice to you and they're always really supportive. You always think it's going to be worse than it is. And I find that with parenting as well as business, I have to share straight away, like, oh my goodness, I've messed up here. And we've kind of created this culture in our community where people do share when things are going wrong. And it means people pick up. So I had a call with a lady this week, and she said, last week's been really bad. And I shared in the group, and I said, yep, I saw your pity party and it's fine. Are we still there? And she went, no, I've moved on. I was like, good. I was like, it's absolutely fine. It's how long we're spending our own pity party is the problem. We're all allowed to have it, because you need to. If you don't release those emotions, if you don't say things are bad, and if you don't allow them to, then pushing them down is not good for anybody. So we are trying to create this culture, because the culture in the industry that we're in, because we're professional, because we're dealing with people's taxes and HMRC, you cannot get things wrong. It's seen so bad, so therefore we've been brought up, if we've worked in the corporate world or in practice, it's like so bad to say anything's wrong. So we're trying to change that actually mistakes in business is not the same as a mistake. Even if people do mess up a tax return, they're like, okay, you've messed it up. What are you going to do about it? how are we going to sort it out? How can we, what's the procedure of going through to make things okay? And do you know what we find is that actually business owners, if we mess up something, because we are human, as long as you sort it out and are willing to sort it out, people hate it when people go, oh, that wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. That was your fault, when everyone knows it was your fault. So we're trying to create this new culture in our industry, which actually it takes people a while to get used to. And the imposter syndrome gets absolutely, at the beginning, they're like, I can't share something. I'm trying to tell myself all the time I'm not that bad. And now you want me to share that I'm bad. That's ridiculous. But it really does help. I benefit from it, and I think, and Zoe, you do as well. I know you've found it harder over time, but you're definitely so much more open, aren't you, to sharing things along the way?
Yeah, I suppose it's about building trust as well with people. And like when we started this community, we get quite a lot of stick, isn't probably the right word, but we do get people saying about I don't know. There's a lot of gurus in this industry. And Joe and I are not gurus. We are two women who came together because we needed someone to talk to about business. And we have learned a lot. We don't know everything. But I tell you what, by building a community and getting people together, we've been able to bring lots and lots of brains together, which is really helpful. So we get lots of ideas, lots of experts. We've tried really hard to bring people from outside of the sort of echo chamber of the accountancy world as well. So we bring lots of people from outside who we're really fortunate to have in our network. And I think it just grows this hive mind of information and support. And that is amazing. And being able to say, actually, I don't know the answer to this. And like, we never stand up and like, we don't, I don't know, we don't think we're gurus. We're just people that bring people together. We're the guides. And we'll welcome people along who can support. And we will say, I don't know, but I do know so-and-so, or, try speaking to them, or there are a couple of recommendations I can make here, because I think that's the best way. And people trust you if you don't go and try and claim you know everything, because who knows everything? No one knows everything, but bring the people who can support. That's our view.
Yeah, I totally agree. You can never know everything. I'm very good at finding things out as well. And I think Tony Robbins actually did a film called I Am Not Your Guru. So even he doesn't know everything. But yeah, it's a really important area. One thing I found was I learn a lot from my clients. So I've got my experience of running the businesses and the failures and success of that. But the last 2.5 years, I've been working with clients. And I've had to solve their problems with them, not for them, with them. And I kind of give them pointers, but sometimes they do things or have done things. I think, wow, that's a really good idea. So as an example, one of my clients, he'll know who he is and he does listen to my podcast. He came up with an idea. He read it in a book, fair enough, but he still came up with an idea of using a group, a WhatsApp group, and all his employees have to put a mistake in every month they've made.
Nice.
How brilliant. It's about owning your mistake. And I just think that's so clever. And I often say to my clients, right, you need to set this group up for it wasn't my idea, but I just saw how powerful that was. When you come across those people that don't own their mistakes, it's a game changer.
Love that. That's really good. That's really good. Because you become, I think that's one of the biggest changes that I've experienced that's led me to more success was ownership, accountability, responsibility. I remember I can hear myself talking back when I had this monster business, and I would be saying things like, oh, everything would be okay if I didn't have clients and staff, and oh God, they're awful and they don't know how to, they don't know what they need to do. And I just would be moaning about everyone else, never that I was the problem. And now, anytime anything happens in our business, Zoe and I are going, right, where did something go wrong? How can we fix it so that it never happens again? And and we always apologize if something was our fault. We're always, or even if it was our team member's fault, but we won't blame the team member. We're very much like, right, we didn't tell them that they needed to do that. And it does help having two of you, because we both take the blame together. So maybe that's more helpful. But definitely in my practice, never blame a client for anything. Where did I not tell them that they needed to do that? How did I not tell them strong enough? Or where have I let my boundaries slip so they feel it's okay to talk to me like that? I always take it on, and it completely transformed my last business, because it does. It starts with us.
It's so much so. And I mean, that's such an important point. Something like 90% of the culture of your business is you. Okay. If you use language like clients are idiots, right? That language kind of ends up, or accept language from your team, the same thing. That is a problem because your team start using that language. And then that language then dictate their actions, which has an effect on the culture. So it always starts with the person who's running the business. And if you start doing that and you kind of flippantly say things, or you perhaps put people down in your business, or then that's acceptable to put people down in your business. How you kind of deal with conflict in your business is really, really important, and how you kind of approach people in a way that's constructive. So one of the things I'm very keen on with the bigger businesses I work with is trying to put a mentoring structure in. I think it's game changing because, a mentor will gain from mentoring someone, and someone being mentored will gain from being mentored. So it's a win-win. I love win-win. Win-win is what the world is about as far as I'm concerned. So, that kind of bit, because we all suffer from imposter syndrome. We all have problems and it holds people back so much. I see so many people that have this imposter syndrome. They literally will not do anything outside their comfort zone, and their world becomes really small because of that. I spend my life outside my comfort zone. It's liberating. It's exhausting, but it's liberating, and I look at people, I looked at, I haven't done any stage talks. I'm getting bigger and bigger groups now. You got up on there, you did so well. It was obviously outside your comfort zone, but you just did a really, really good presentation. And I've listened to all these clever people doing all their sales pitches and their disguised sales pitches, because that's what happens on these things. Not really meant to sell, but and you just came on and told a really nice story. And I thought that's great. It was really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it was completely out of our comfort zone. And I think it is boring and it's not very safe to stay in your comfort zone. We think it is, but actually it's not. I've definitely been on this last year on saying yes to selling my practice was really scary, but it felt really right. And then I've done some ice baths as well. I've been to a dance class. Me and Zoe are going skiing and snowboarding in March. We're like, who are we? Why are we feeling it's okay? But do you know what? When you've got people watching you, and people say, oh, you're business coaches. And I was looking up the other day about the difference between coaches and mentors have lived experience. And I definitely feel that we're definitely more mentors, and coaches feels like you're going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to share with you what my experience is. You can take from it. I will tell you what I think is a good plan, but I'm not going to be that prescriptive in the fact that you have to people say to us all the time, why don't you just start a bookkeeping franchise? Because we could go out and get loads of clients for people, but we're like, no, because everyone's so different and everyone's got a different skill set, and we don't want to pigeonhole or cookie cutter anybody. So yeah, it's really interesting. But that whole mentor thing, we brought my mum into our business because she's got lived experience different to ours. And it's about, she's got 5 children. She's doing a business degree. She's in her 60s. She's got heaps of experience with referral marketing, but she just comes at things from a completely different point of view. And that's what me and Zoe are trying to just listen to someone else's point of view. And as a mentor, rather than do this, this is the way of doing it. It's the only way of doing it. Doesn't sit right with us, because we know that there are so many different ways that you can build a business. Lots of people, I'm in my garage, and that works for me, except for yesterday when it was raining, and every time I went to the loo or went and got a cup of tea, I got absolutely soaked. That wasn't working for me, but the majority of the time it works for me. But other times people, we've got one guy that's joined our community, he's got 7 children. Yeah, he needs to get out of the house to do a bit of work. And that's, and people want that office space. So how can you be so prescriptive and say, this is the right way? So me and Zoe very much share what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, but we're still looking for what's going to, I think I need something to cover my walkway. So I still need new ways of working, and we're still open to learning. And what you said as well, learning from your clients. We've created a group of ambassadors in our community, because me and Zoe don't run practices anymore. So we need people with their fingers on the pulse that are running practices still right now, because we don't want to be so detached and people looking at us and go, well, it was all right for you back there. Even, I sold my practice in August. Things have changed. It changes so quickly. with things like AI and things change all the time. So we are very much being led and listen to our ambassadors and say, what's needed? What are you hearing? What's something big? And so it's really important that how can business owners do that by, getting their staff members and actually really listening, not always just talking at people. We always say this, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you're talking. And I think business owners could do that more with their clients than they currently do.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I see coaching, mentoring and consultancy, so they're slightly different. And I'm not sure this is right. So this is just my take on it. Coaching is guiding someone to find their own solution. Okay, lots of coaches do that. So lots of business coaches say, I don't need to know about your business. I don't need to be a specialist in your area. I so disagree with that. I'm sorry to be but I think if you've actually been in that industry and understand it, you can do such a better job. So they coach, they guide people, and then you've got mentoring, which is, as you say, from experience. So it's a bit more prescriptive, this is what I think you should do. And consulting is going in and going, right, okay, these are the systems you want to put in and this is what you need to do. So that's the 3. So people can't kind of say what I do is coach consulting or coach mentoring consulting. It's a blend of the 3 really. And I can do that because I have huge knowledge on the detail of running building sites, of development, everything else, the real nitty gritty. I do the high level stuff as well, but I can do the real nitty gritty. And I think, you as well have been there, done that. You've done the bookkeeping. You've actually, been on the computer, inputting stuff. You know your stuff. And I think that's so powerful. It's just so much more powerful than someone who goes, oh, I coach any industry. Or my experience as a coach in your industry is that I coach other people in your industry. I still don't think that's powerful enough.
That's really interesting. I think there's a lot of I don't think we're the right coaches and mentors for everyone in this industry either. I think it's narrower than that, because I think that there are sort of, I suppose as mothers, we have a certain view on things as well. We talk about flexibility a lot. We attract a lot of guys into our world as well, and a lot of people who don't have children, but generally there's a theme that people are looking for flexibility. And they're building a business because there's another goal. They're not building a business because they're like, hey, I've got these great bookkeeping and accountancy skills. How do I make as much money as I can? They're doing it because they're thinking there has got to be a better way than this. And we want to help them find the better way and build the business that helps them get the better way. So it might be you're not charging enough, so you are burnt out, stressed, not getting time with your kids. Or it might be you've got caring responsibilities and you want to be able to finish whenever you want to. And how do you structure it so that works? So yeah, I think finding people who have a real understanding of how you need work to work for you, and then can bring the pricing strategy and I suppose that awareness of the industry and sort of what works in this more online world has helped a group of people. There are definitely people in the industry who don't like, I'll say it, they don't like us. There are people that don't like us, say bad things, and that's okay, but that isn't part of our culture. And you were talking about the conversations you have as a leader and what your sort of view of your team and the culture of your team becomes. That isn't how we work. We're very much like, okay, they're doing that, cool, we're going to carry on doing our thing, but isn't it useful for us thinking about the SWOT analysis, like what's going to help us, what are our strengths and weaknesses, what are our opportunities and threats, how does what everyone else around us is doing influence that? On the whole, it doesn't, but it can help us see what we do in a different way. So it is really interesting to think about your sort of market positioning. And I think we're quite aware of where we fit into this industry. And I think we were probably needed at a time, that's why the group's grown, because we were needed during that sort of COVID time. And I think that support, when anyone who works with us in our programs talks about what we do, they're like, yeah, the training's great. They know their stuff. They give us the training we need, connect us with the people we need. But the community, wow, I'm here for the community. And I don't think they know they need that at the beginning, because we're so, as bookkeepers and accountants, we're so driven by the direction and I need to get some CPD points and tick some boxes. But actually, there's so much benefit from having these great people around you.
Again, you've got the spot on. The thing about social media, and this is something I've found out, because I'm a builder. So I'm now on social media and everything. So it's a bit different for me. But I do get trolled. I really don't give a monkeys, but, people seem to want to kind of knock you, which is fine. But the other thing is I'm on social media a lot. I don't know how much people see my stuff, but you don't get a lot of feedback from people generally. So you don't know. And I get the odd phone call and the very odd message. So I've had people message me about the podcast and go, it's amazing. It's really changed my life. I've listened to all of them. I always find that amazing that actually anyone listens. And I also find that with social media. So I had someone phone me recently. He said, I've been following you for 2 years. I've been saving up to work with you. I want to sign on now. Okay, what do you mean following? Well, I've been on social media following you. Everything you say to do, I'm doing. I've listened to all your podcasts, and I'm thinking, wow, It's because it's a surprise because you're just kind of feeding all this stuff into social media. And people generally, particularly in the UK, they don't comment. I have been trolled. Well, not trolled. We've been spammed recently. So we've been getting hundreds and hundreds of messages, generally saying things like, you're really handsome, which I understand because people are human. But so that's dying down now. So, but it'd be nice for people, people out there listening, comment, say something, questions, stuff like that. It just makes a big difference to get that bit of feedback.
Yeah, we hear this all the time. We recently opened up our calendars. Where I've sold the practice, I've had a little bit more time available, and I thought it's good to chat to people. So we've just opened up for some Zoom chats. We've been calling them coffee chats. Half an hour, get on a call. You can talk to me about whatever you want. And it's been fascinating. And the people we've spoken to, North Macedonia, Thailand, Pakistan, Bulgaria, Paris, all over the world. And they all say, I've been a lurker. I've been watching, but when you opened up your calendar, I thought, I have to have a chat. And they sit there absolutely starstruck. And I'm like, I don't know who you like. It's fine. We're just having a cup of tea. And they're like, oh, now I'm here. I don't know what to say. And they're so sweet. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then they say things back from our book, or they say, there was that podcast you did and you spoke to that lady. And I'm thinking, that was 21. Geez, that was ages ago. I don't remember what I said. But things that have impacted people so much that's changed the direction of their business and then therefore their life. It's like, wow, yes, absolutely. Comment more, say what you want, tell people what you need, and share what you're struggling with, because we are really listening, and we really want to help. And what we're trying to teach as well is the fact that as bookkeepers and accountants, we are in businesses, the businesses that you're supporting. We are there doing the books for all different types of industry. We have people that are construction only deal with construction. If they understand and learn the business skills that we're trying to empower them with, they're going to have massive, literally me and Zoe see we have the opportunity to change the economy. We've got 20,000 bookkeepers and accountants in our community. And if we can help them change the businesses that they're impacting, literally it can change everything. So it seemed like a really should we just get together and help some bookkeepers learn from our mistakes? And it's grown to be massive. And, I've been to the House of Lords, and I'm going to the House of Parliament as well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because of community, and not because I'm the guru. Do not ask. I've never filed a set of accounts in my life, never done a corporation tax return. I can explain it to you, but I'm not an accountant. So it's not about having this technical knowledge. It's just being willing to share where I've gone wrong and then let other people share along with us. It's mad.
I get that. And being quoted back is a strange thing, isn't it? I remember appearing on a podcast, Own the Build, I think it's called. And people go, oh yeah, and I heard this podcast and you spoke about this. I'm thinking that was 2 years ago. I can't remember a thing I said, and so you do get quoted back and they go, oh, I've done all the things you say. What have I been saying? So, that is strange. So anyway, I know you two are very busy, so I don't want to take up any more time. But what I always end with is 3 tips. So there'll be 6 because don't steal each other's tips on what you would do or what you'd advise business owners to do to not guarantee success, but to help them along the way, and either things to do or things to avoid in running their business.
Oh my goodness, you put us on the spot there, haven't you?
Should we do one each? And then
let's do it.
Yeah, you go first.
I'm going to say read widely, ideas from outside of your space, but don't be consumed by reading as an activity. You need to take action. So one thing at a time, and implement before you read the next thing.
That's a very good one. Yeah, I like that. And just to add to that, I think it's John Quick who kind of specialises in how to read quickly. But he says, if you read and every line you go, right, how can I use that? It's a much better thinking process to read in a book than just reading it.
Yeah. And it might change the way you read as well. Because I like to read before I go to sleep, but it's a very different way of reading if you want to take action. So you need to find a way to capture the ideas, because otherwise it just becomes loads of ideas. And that we speak to a lot of people who are overwhelmed. And I think it's because they're thinking, I have to do this, or they've listened to 100 podcasts, but they can't do everything. So choose the thing you're going to do first.
Love that. So I think I'm going to carry on from that in a little bit else. So usually people that are listening to this kind of podcast may have invested in something themselves. Maybe they've got a free course that they've invested in. I mean, don't know if anyone knows of Alex Hormozy. He gives away courses for free, massively impactful. He's trying to help you get to $3 million profit, or $1 million profit, $3 million turnover for free. So then he can invest in you, and he gives you the courses for free, right? But we get overwhelmed, exactly what Zoe said. We have this, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And we was talking this week with a coach, because we invest in ourselves. I think we're working with like 5 or 6 coaches between us at the moment. Like, we're always investing in ourselves. And he said, just watch one video a day. So if you've got, if you're working, people working in our program, they're like, oh my goodness, our videos are like 10 minutes in our program. And the courses that we're watching, they're always about 5 to 20 minutes, nothing more. So just commit to one. Whatever you're working on at the moment, just commit to one a day, because it allows you as well. What I've noticed is when I'm watching one a day, rather than spending a weekend it's a bit like the analogy of box sets. And in the past, when we used to have to wait for an episode, we were so much more invested in the characters and everything when Sopranos dropped one episode a week back in the early 2000s, rather than being able to binge it all. Because the whole week you'd have conversations about it, you'd chat to your spouse about things, you'd be excited for the next episode, and they were really embedded. So if you do that with your courses and programs or anything, and because of so many lead magnets these days and things, we've got access to education all around us. Just do one a day.
Tip. Well done, Joe. Love that. Okay. Next one then from me is design the business. So just because you are in an industry or you have a skill set or a background, that doesn't mean your business has to look like everyone else's business. So sure, learn from what has worked well, what hasn't worked well. Listen to people who've done what you've done before and take what you can from that. But remember, it's yours. So you get to choose your working hours. You get to choose the kind of clients you work with. You get to choose what you sell to them. You get to choose how you price it. But that actually goes back to what you want from life. So design a business that works for you, is what we always say.
That's such an important point. I'm actually running a workshop in January, which is about designing your 5-year business. And it people kind of forget. It starts with you. What do you want? What does your business need to look like to give you what you want? And that's not cash. It's not just about cash. It's about lifestyle and, work-life balance, as they say. And I think I heard someone describe work-life balance as, I think it was symphony. So, it's that blend. So work-life balance is a difficult concept, but actually just blending the two things is quite important. But that is a fantastic point, and I totally agree with you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be running the workshop.
Great minds, eh? Right, my next top tip is that stop thinking you're in competition with the other people running similar businesses to you. You're not. You're in competition with Netflix, Amazon, Google. I have recently started using Ocado, and it has changed my life. I cannot believe that I've been using it for 8 weeks now and there's not been one substitution. The bar has been raised on my expectations around food delivery service, and I won't go back now. It's a bit like I got a new Fiesta. It's not like top of the range car, but I got a new Fiesta 2 years ago, and there's a steering wheel warmer. I will never have a car that doesn't have a steering wheel warmer anymore, because it is like, I love it, and heated seat. I absolutely love it, and it's made my winter better. So how do you in your business compare on service, and how do you wow people? Stop thinking it's, just because you see exactly what you said earlier about what people's outside, their social media might be amazing, but their delivery might be shocking. What is your delivery like, and how do you compare? And also that goes down to pricing and people paying for your service. My business changed when I started charging at the beginning of the month for the services I was delivering that month. People pay for Netflix every month, whether they use it or not. So how can you put that into your business? Because people are very used to subscription models these days. So it depends on your industry, I know, but everyone can bring an element of that kind of subscription model and wowing into their business. So how can you do that in yours?
And we've called this quite often, we call this our gold standard service. So if you think about where are you the best at what you do and how do you package that? Because if you're offering, and maybe this is the next tip, if you're a service provider, you need to find a way to deliver it as a product. Because if you package it as a product, gold service, for example, and none of this like bronze, silver, gold, try and shove them towards the silver, like your absolute best service, because if you give them your absolute best service, you can charge the absolute best price for it. And when we're talking about life goals and building a business that works for you, if you're charging it your best price for the best value you give, it's much easier to hit that goal than it is if you're scrabbling around trying to throw some stuff into a silver package. So let's think about how do we do the best of what we do and how do we package it, because then it's easier to get known for that thing, be seen as the expert, stand out, have a USP, market yourself. So package your service. That's my final top tip.
Again, really valuable. Having said that, I have silver, gold and platinum packages, but I don't, I tend not to steer people towards anything. So, it's about what they can afford, because I don't want people to go in debt working with me. It puts too much pressure on the relationship. So, that's kind of the way I work. But in my industry, the customer service bar is so low, and if you think about your customer and you have a customer's journey in place, it's something that I do with my clients. Make sure that they are looking after their customer, they're managing their customer, and they're kind of working out their expectations and managing those expectations. Oh, it's a game changer. Total game changer. And a bit like we were talking about earlier, customers are terrible, customers are awkward. Yes, there are some awkward customers, but if you manage them properly, you're going to get a hell of a lot less of them. And that's really important. That's so important to do that, but also to know who not to work with.
Yeah.
To have that kind of gumption, just go, no, I've got plenty of work. Yeah. I'm not going to work with you because I don't think we're going to get on.
And this is where values are so important. You understanding and knowing if people are in line with your values and actually listening to your gut. Yesterday, I had a conversation with someone and I was just like, this is what we do is not right for you. And it's absolutely fine. I'm fine with it. And I'm happy for you not to buy from us because it's not a good fit. And that's okay. And actually, when you do that, you become like this magnet and you just repel. We want to repel the people that aren't right for us, and we want to attract the people that are good for us. So, yeah, I think we need to do more of that and get stronger. Make sure we're pushing people away more and not be scared of that rather than trying to please everybody, because that gets you nowhere.
Totally agree. So where are we? I
think I've got one left.
Go for it.
My last one is be really clear. For 2024, what is your profit goal? What do you want to be taking home every month? And then what I do is I make it like the annual goal. So it happens to be a 6-figure goal. And my PIN on my phone has got 6 numbers. And to get into my laptop, I have to put in a PIN of 6 numbers. So every morning, every time I open my phone, I have to put in that PIN, which is my profit goal. And then I also have a post-it notes everywhere, inside my bathroom cabinet, inside my wardrobes, inside my kitchen cabinets. My kids see my goal everywhere and they laugh. And then my youngest has started doing it for herself. She's got in a makeup drawer, she's got her goal. She's very determined to be a millionaire one day, bless her, that's 13. But seeing where can you leave clues and keep reminding yourself of where you're going to, because why it's important is that every decision you make, your subconscious will be thinking, is it going to get me closer or further away from that goal? And it just makes life a little bit easier.
So a little tip to add to that is if you're going to use it for your PIN, don't pick a round number.
No, No, don't use it for bank pins or anything like that.
So yes, because that could become awkward. Well, that's been brilliant. Thank you ever so much for spending the time with us. Really enjoyed it, and yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Bust and Beyond with Robin Hayhurst. Be sure to tune in next time and visit his website at robinhayhurst.com.